talking earlier with Adil from Danube, that with customer shopping from home, you've had to think differently about what is a store and how do customers see and engage with a store. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you're using things like Zoom and virtual reality in your business?
Sure. I just want to talk about my e-commerce business first. So we were one of the first companies in our industry to launch our e-commerce arm almost about 9 years ago. And even then, the contribution to our overall turnover was about 5%. And in general, our ATV, that's the average transaction value, was about 750 to 800 dirhams, which means people shopping online were primarily buying coffee tables, a single swing, a small recliner, maybe a gazebo. It wasn't serious shopping. Now, in GCC, the penetration of proper furniture buying was extremely low. But during the COVID, especially in the months of May, June, and July, we saw that number grow by 5x. From 5%, we saw that it went up to 25% of our overall contribution. Luckily, we were geared up for it, and hence we were able to somehow manage that increased surge in e-commerce. Now it's come down to about 10%. But our resources are now, we're spending a lot of money in different technology aspects. We're going to experiment with different ideas. And our aim is to bring our e-commerce to a 20% share, even post-COVID. And we've put a timeline of 3 years. So our team is working very vigilantly towards achieving that. Now, what we've done is, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of people earlier when they would do their home shopping, they would come into our stores, spend 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, spend time with our interior designers, because when you're doing shopping for your home, you shop for leisure. But now due to COVID, a lot of customers, A, are not comfortable going to stores. B, even if they want to go to the stores, they want to come in and spend as less time as possible and really select what they want and leave in the shortest span possible. So what we've done is we did a couple of things. The first thing we did was we enabled a Zoom meeting concept where our customers could book a Zoom meeting with our sales staff, sales advisors in our stores, and they would actually with the iPad, browse through the whole store, show them item by item, give them features as if they're present over there. And that was a big hit for us, and that was very successful, and that made it very convenient for a lot of customers. The second thing which we're looking at is we're looking at a concept called Danube Home on Wheels, where as a customer, if you speak to our online representative and you want to touch and feel the sofa before you purchase it, but you don't want to come to the store, then we will actually have a service where we'll try and bring 2 or 3 different designs to your house in a big truck, where you can come into the truck, sit, see the comfort, and if you like it, we try and install it there and then. Now, this is something we're experimenting with, and then we're going to see whether it's commercially viable or not. But this is something we should be launching very, very soon. Besides this, now we're looking at the online at a very different way, because we've seen the whole myth of people not buying furniture online is being broken. We've seen the customer trends change completely, where people are buying a 5,000, 6,000 dirham sofa online without even browsing it, in the store physically. So we are now focusing on customization, where we're going to be launching a complete customization concept on our store, where people can customize their kitchen, they can customize their flooring, they can customize their wallpapers, they can order customized wardrobes, they can order customized blinds, and so on. And so we're going to do this in the big way. I don't think anyone has done it yet in the organized retail sector in our industry. So we want to try and be the first in this. And that's how we're pushing forward the e-commerce space.
Fantastic. And I think one thing that we discussed earlier, and Bhavna brought it up as well, is that we're not always, in trying these things, they're not always successful. But I think in this environment, we should not be afraid to experiment. But I think the key is to learn fast and to move forward. There's so many different, we're all learning all the time. And when you, to take Bhavna's figures, if you bring 15 years of change into 1 year, then you have to learn fast and you have to try different things. So we're all doing exactly that. And I guess one area where there has certainly been change in the last 5 years has been, I guess, the grocery side, Ashutosh, and I guess the growth of online in grocery. How's that affected the business, and have you seen technology play a part in that in terms of supporting online and your store network being part of the online and working together with the online side of the business?
Yeah, Mark, I think online has been a large part of the grocery business for some time now. And if you look at the previous years, maybe starting from 15 or 16, it's been a segment of the business which has been seeing very large growths. However, those growths in the prior period were nothing compared to what we got during this pandemic. One difference between adjusting your business to growth in the previous years and during the pandemic was that one, it was not planned. Yeah? And the second, the impact was so high that no kind of planning could sustain it. Yeah? Now, when we talk about two changes that you need to bring when you have such kind of impacts on the top side or on the bottom side, one is technology and one is the physical change. Now, typically what happens in technology that it takes time. Technology cannot be immediate. Means if it's a few tweaks here and there, if you're upgrading or if you're introducing a few small processes, then yes, that can happen. So if I have to give an example of technology, like we needed more handheld scanners to service more orders. Now we could get a few because the supplier did not have as many in stock because he also was not getting supplies. But when we wanted to make a huge change on the back end, that was not possible because maybe our technology vendor, his employees were not on board, and the time taken by him was much more than what we could give to him. So if you have to look at the 3-4 critical period of COVID, there was not a lot of technological change that we could bank on. We did do a few tweaks in terms of how we deliver, what are slots like, what is our transportation pattern like, because we put in a lot more vehicles for delivery than we had previously. So that's where the software aspect of technology could be changed. But were we able to make any hard changes on the technology side or permanent changes? The answer is no. But the biggest change that we had to do was on the process side, on how we pick, how many number of people, the associates or the stockers, how do they pick, how fast they can pick. One large change that we did was we started doing our picking in the night. Earlier our picking shifts used to operate maybe from 5 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock in the evening to service the orders. But since the number of orders increased so exponentially, we had to do the picking of our morning batch of first 4 hours of our morning deliveries in the night. Now that helped us increase our order deliveries at least by 1.5x. Since we were receiving 3x or 4x more orders, but even by doing this big change, we were able to just about double our number of deliveries that we could service. The other change that we did in the process was reducing the number of replacements or the returns that customers are. So every time a customer placed an order, we used to call them, ensure that what they are ordering and what we are delivering is the same. So a lot of process tweaks took place in the 3-4 months to take care of the search, and not a lot of the technology changes. But what we are doing now from the learnings is that now we are preparing our backend in such a manner that if this surge happens and we are sure that this surge will continue, from a technology point of view, we are there. So now 3 months down the line, a lot of the technology fixes have been done. So we are better prepared now to handle any surge and continue the surge that we are seeing today from a technology aspect as well.
That's perfect. Ashutosh, thank you for that. Bhavna, I want to come to you on the subject of returns that Ashutosh was just talking about there, particularly in the type of products that your business sells at Sun and Sand, and especially on the fashion side of that. When you move to online, you typically see a higher level of returns. Have you experienced that over the last few years, and I guess a spike this year? And what have you done to solve that?
So I think, Mark, if you, again, and I keep going back to this because it's so polarized, right? At the end of the day, like I said, the big boys are the ones that are changing consumer behavior, whereas we're on the other end of the spectrum as a brick and mortar retailer, and everybody is kind of stuck for the last 5 or 6 years trying to solve the abysmal in between of kind of amalgamating the two together. So when we talk about returns, I think it's important to kind of understand the difference between the unit economics of a brick and mortar retailer or a traditional retailer and the .com, right? So if I were to kind of simplify it to say that there are two backbreakers, or the evil Knievel twins, as I call them, on a P&L for .com is the acquisition cost, because whether we like it or not, all of our customer journeys start on Google, whether it's through Siri or Alexa and voice searches or everything else. Everything we do today is from Google, so it's really about serving demand there. So acquisition can be incredibly expensive. And the other thing that can be incredibly expensive is last mile delivery. So when we talk about returns in particular, if I were to really break that down, so I said if I park the acquisition on the side and I talk about the supply chain or the LMD costs, a huge chunk of that is what we call returns. But it's really understanding, the granular level of what that really means. And if I were to break that down, in all honesty, it's not returns. So if I were to say LMD costs being broken up into something that we call undelivered, every LMD partner today calls them twice or thrice. That's your deal. They try and reach you. If they can't reach you, you're still being charged for it being dropped to them and being brought back, right? So even if it's not delivered, you're still being charged a certain value. So if I really break it down, and if I were to compare, which we have done, the brick and mortar returns based on, or exchanges based on, genuine things like sizes or a product not being what they expected it to be, I would say we're not very off in the .com. So in true returns, I don't think, and I think a lot of this has got to do with the fact that we have so many stores across the GCC where, we're a well-known brand within the sportswear arena. So I think the concept of quality or the trust related to that are not quite issues that we're dealing with from a returns perspective. But if I were to look at the undelivered, I'm sure my colleagues here as well, from a .com perspective, KSA is one of your largest markets because you're talking about upwards of 30 million people there, and access from a retail penetration is not quite the same. So the .com obviously depends hugely on Saudi. And one of the largest things that were the undelivered, one of the causes was obviously what we call cash on delivery as a payment method. So if you're not quite committed with a credit card payment at that point in time, you're not really, you may not be a serious buyer per se, which is where the hugest part was for us. So I think a lot of the things that we've done over the last, and this is obviously not recent, it's been going on for a while we did try to incentivize, credit card purchases by giving additional discounts, for example, it didn't quite take at that point in time. But again, COVID-19 was a blessing because by default, you could not, we were no longer allowed to offer cash on delivery, which basically meant that the huge barrier of using a credit card online by default now disappeared. So it kind of, the trust level increased, saying, okay, I actually can give my credit card details to this website and it would be fine. So that was a huge plus point. But even though that wasn't, I'm not grateful for COVID-19, but that's definitely one of the positives that came out of it. The other elements you can look at, that we did look at and we are looking at this point in time, is adding additional payment methodologies, right? So for example, Tabby, I'm sure everybody's read about it recently, is one of our partners that we're working with, which is buy now, pay later, right? most banks offer installment schemes that are fairly, they're very comparable in terms of what you would pay at a store or otherwise. Those are other ways to do it. And the other element, when we truly talk about omni-channel, the true definition is, for us at least, is one customer and one brand, and to kind of simplify the relationship between the two. We're lucky, again, one of the assets that brick and mortar stores or traditional retailers have is access, is the number of stores you have available to you as touch points. So to encourage the exchanges happening in store is something that we're obviously going to launch right now. And when we talk about technology, again, I just wanted to, I just want to touch upon something that we spoke about earlier, what Adil was talking about in terms of, we're so focused on the front end experience because you're constantly trying to emulate or make that customer journey better. And I find, and at the risk of sounding slightly disruptive in this conversation, but what we really struggle with as traditional brick and mortar retailers is actually the back office. It's actually, is your plumbing right? Is your inventory correct? So it's more about saying, I think, again, I apologize for not remembering who I'm quoting. This was at the AI Summit 2 years ago, where one of the gentlemen spoke about how it is actually important to kind of delay the AI and the ML game. And because it is such a nascent, omnichannel is such a nascent industry still, that it's actually a whole lot better to focus on good technology for your basics, getting your inventory right, getting your logistics right, getting your persuasive triggers across both a physical world and a .com world right, getting your search capability, your shopping capability right, than actually kind of look at only front-ended elements, because the longer you wait in that game, the chances are the quicker you can adopt them, because they're easier consumables at that point in time as product. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, you made a very good point there that says omnichannel or online retail in particular is very nascent. It's very early. Okay, we've all used it for a few years now, but the reality is that in the term of retail history, that's a really fast change. And I think you also talked about understanding the data, getting behind the data. There are headline statistics around the shift to online. There are headline statistics about inventory availability, and you talked about the plumbing. I want to turn on that point to Hozefa again. And Hozefa, one of the things I know that Zebra is looking at or working with is analytics, understanding the business. Where do you see that going? I believe there was an acquisition last year that Zebra made in analytics.
Right, Mark. I think to understand this better, let's just look at the evolution of this whole thing, right? I mean, and a lot of us have been here in the industry for some time. So if I use the words like data center, big data, these would sound pretty familiar. So there were times when data center business was in, everybody was looking at, okay, this is where I'm going to be storing my data. And then came this big data decade, and everybody was looking at what this big data is going to be all about. By the time the big data matured, then it came cloud computing, right? Everything went on cloud. As technology evolved and as technology has matured, what this has allowed us to do is gather a lot of information. So today, a lot of data is available and is analyzed. So the machine learning part or the artificial intelligence part is able to analyze this information. But again, to Bhavna's point, there are challenges, because today what happens is that these reports land on our desks, either in the boardroom, this is the analysis we have done of our business. It goes onto the sales floor, it goes into the distribution center, to the warehouses, or even to the delivery trucks. Now, everybody has to look at those reports. They are lengthy, they are complex, they are analysis, but they're left to their personal interpretation. I will interpret the report and the analysis that have come in, what I think of it, and then it is biased depending on who is presenting it. And this is creating a problem where people have to then decide what action to take. People have to decide who should take this action. And that is resulting into processes which are not something we would have expected as an outcome of this analysis. So as technology has evolved today, some things have become possible with the help of AI and with the help of machine learning. And what has become possible is they're cutting down this interpretation, they're cutting down this bias so that you are actually able to get a singular right interpretation, a right set of action, automatically delivered to the right person and at the right time. And this is now called prescriptive analytics. So we had analytics, but now analytics are prescribing what you need to do with the data and the analysis that have been generated. So this is, I believe, an outcome of AI and machine learning. And this is where Zebra made an investment last year and acquired the capability that allows it to position prescriptive analytics, which is nothing but looking at analyzing your data and then driving automated action to the point of delivering the action to the person that needs to take decisions.
Perfect, thanks, Hozefa. So we've seen a shift in shopper behavior. We've seen a shift in the logistics piece. We've talked about that. We've seen a shift in perhaps the availability and use of stores and how stores integrate into this online picture. I mean, analytics, obviously, and technology behind that obviously plays a part as well. Retailers don't operate in a silo. We're also impacted by I guess the social and governmental environment. Adele, I know that we talked about this earlier. Governments actually across the world have probably done quite a good job in terms of supporting retailers and helping that harmony.
I'm going to talk about the GCC region. I mean, I always say this. I truly feel that we're so blessed living in the GCC, especially in Dubai, because the kind of drive our government has, even though it's not a democratic government, and that kind of makes it easier to make decisions as well. The kind of drive they have is unbelievable. I mean, if you talk to me alone, we've done more than 80,000 tests, and that's a big number. Looking at the population we have, I think we'd probably be right in the top 5 when considering the number of tests per capita. Then the different efforts they've put in terms of sanitizing the roads, sanitizing the different areas, being transparent with the retailers, and they actually have a COVID police where they have a page on Instagram where they go and have random checks in different retailers, and if they're not up to mark and up to standard, then they'll be imposing heavy fines and heavy duties. And I think that's a fantastic thing, because that really pushes all the service and retail industry to make sure that everyone is doing the best they can in their ability to make sure that their employees and their staff are as safe as possible. And that is probably one of the reasons why we're much better off compared to a lot of countries outside. I have a lot of well-to-do friends in India, and the situation over there is not great. And I know so many people, mark my words, Mark, as soon as the restrictions are lifted, you'll see a huge influx of people coming in from Europe, coming in from the UK, coming in from India, and people who are going to be considering Dubai as their second base, maybe even their primary base, because they've seen the way the government has dealt with the health crisis. And I think next year we're going to see hopefully a boom coming in Dubai, because of the reasons the government has enacted, and the way they market it as well. Everyone outside, they're like, oh wow, look at Dubai, and if you go to any restaurant over here, you go to any cafe, you go to a sports mall, it doesn't seem like it's COVID. And this has only happened because of the strict rules and the right measures that the government have put in place and done it in a very efficient manner. So hats off to the government, and we're lucky to be part of their community.
I think that's a great point. And whether it's how the environment that's created by the government, whether it's the relationships we build with our suppliers, and making that much more of a partnership. And I know that's something that you're certainly doing. The other side, and really sort of looking for final comments from everyone here as we hit the top of the hour. The other side is staff, and Hozefa touched on it earlier. And how important they are in this whole process. So if I give everyone just a minute or so, really quickly, just to talk about how they see staff and enabling staff in their stores in particular as part of this process. So Ashutosh, if I come to you, how have you managed your staff and changed the way the staff operate?
I think they have been the real heroes in this entire time. I think neither of us expected to be in a simple business like grocery, to be employed in a simple operation like grocery, and to face this kind of a situation and be available to serve your customers in the most difficult times. So they truly have been our heroes. They were there day in and day out. They were hearing about the news, the number of people going up, COVID infected people going up, the tense environment that they are working in, but they stayed put. On top of it, the huge increase in sales, whether it's offline or online, which they had to service. And as Adel mentioned initially, there was no new hands coming on board. Means there were a few of them coming in, but they were not as efficient as the ones that we had employed. Means the third party guys were just there to support, but not to add a lot of momentum to the day-to-day work. So we did do a lot for our staff. One of the things that we did, which did really go well, is reward them financially. So we introduced an hardship allowance during this period, which we gave to each and every employee of us. Then to the entire duration of the COVID impact, we also gave them food and lunch and snacks, so that all the heat and intensity that they were facing, they could do that very, very easily. Having said that, we really didn't have to care too much about them. They actually just took care of themselves. They actually did take care of us. Means I remember an incident. I kept on going to stores through most of the time, and I was supposed to visit Abu Dhabi in one of our stores there. And the store manager there came to know about it, and he actually sent me a message that, sir, it's all right if you don't come. We can have a video call if required. So he was so worried. He was more worried about me coming there, and while he was going to be present on the floor with his team. We have had so many fantastic customer reactions also from many of our customers. We have a store in Jumeirah Golf Estate. All the customers got together and arranged a treat for all the staff. Just last week, and it's not like all these things happened during the peak. Just last week, in one of our stores, a customer had customized muffins for all our employees. He made muffins with Choithrams written on it, and thank you. So he actually gave 2 muffins to each of our staff.
I might take a trip over there. I think I need some free muffins. It's
absolutely. They're all over. They're all over, Mark. Unfortunately,
I think you're echoing what's happening around the world, in terms of stores, in terms of the way staff have been heroes. I know a lot of retailers, and Danuba, I know is the same, have managed to keep all staff and committed, because staff are truly important. And I know from a technology point of view, that one of the things that's happened is staff have become much more central to how we actually deal and become more agile as a business. So please continue that focus. We are right at the top of the hour. I know we can all carry on this conversation, and maybe next time we do 2 hours, and because there's so much to talk about here in terms of, as Ashutosh mentioned, the process change that needs to be looked at, the experiments and trials we need to do and fail and learn fast, that everyone else has been talking about, and how the different sides of retail, the stores, the staff, the customers, the technology, the processes, the suppliers, the government environment, we have to, and we are seeing it this year more than ever, work in harmony to create a new orchestration of retail. So I'm going to hand straight back to Justina now, just to say thank you very much to Images Retail for putting on this great event, and it was great to be part of the discussion. Justina.
Thank you, Mark. You've been incredible as always. I think we need to thank Zebra for orchestrating this interesting panel discussion.